Hey, so in this edition of the Love is the Answer podcast, I'm AJ Ali. I'm here with Melvin Russell and Melvin Jones, and we're going to be talking a little bit today about tactical empathy. This conversation is meant for peace officers and members of the military, and then secondarily, anyone else who thinks that they can use it. But this is a very specific conversation for police and members of the military. This whole issue of tactical empathy. A lot of people don't know what that's all about, so we're going to talk about that with you. And why don't we kick it off with Melvin Russell? Why don't you go ahead and give a little intro, and then Melvin Jones, and then I'll pick it up from there.
Sure. So, like you said, I'm Melvin Russell. I had the privilege of serving in the Baltimore Police Department at the time, the eighth largest police department in the country. And I put emphasis on serving because it was a privilege. And we should never lose sight of that. I almost served with the police department for just shy of 40 years. And I've seen it all. Um, I also understand the challenges in public safety. I retired as a number two, meaning I got right before the top cop. I became a deputy commissioner, acting deputy commissioner. So I've seen a lot. I understand the political pieces of it. I understand the dark side, the good side. But at the end of the day, I think we just have to understand, especially as leaders and police officers. I don't care if you just put the badge on or if you've been in a career and building a tremendous career, you have to understand that your priority is to protect and serve. And you can never, ever lose sight of that. Never get jaded, never look to be served, never look to be empowered more than you're trying to empower other people and heal other people and bring resolvement to their issues in their lives. So that's who I am.
Thank you, Melvin. And now Melvin 2.0, Melvin Jones.
Hi, everybody. I'm Melvin Jones. I'm a 30-year Army veteran, combat veteran. I retired as a colonel of the military police in the U.S. Army. I also led a training brigade schoolhouse where we developed officers, non-commissioned officers, and helped build not only the current force, but the future force. And the motto of the MP Corps, Military Police Corps, is to assist, protect, and defend. And that ties into servant leadership. And that's what my whole career has been about, empowering people to serve others and become better leaders. And back to you, AJ.
Thank you. So, AJ Ali, I'm the director and producer of the film Walking While Black, Love is the Answer that Melvin Russell is featured in. Melvin Russell and I have known each other for, let's see, I think about 2012, what was it, 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. So,
2010.
so about
Correct.
14 years. And then Melvin Jones and I, we went to high school together. So we've known each other for years. It's been a long time. It's been about 45 years for us. So I am not a police officer. I am a veteran, and I didn't ascend to the leadership heights that Melvin Jones did, retiring as a colonel. I was a senior airman when I got out in 1987. But this whole issue of empathy and tactical empathy is right at the core of what I've been living and studying and eating and breathing ever since that police stop in 2012. That was the one too many for me that caused me to make the film Walking While Black, Love is the Answer, and then of course to keep on going with the work with the Love is the Answer movement. I've just been really curious about all of this. I started out, as Melvin Russell knows, very angry. Um, that incident that I went through on the side of that road made me just, it was too much. It was like the last straw for me. And I've been curious ever since, and the anger and all that stuff went away a long time ago because the curiosity took over. And I'm really curious about the human condition and why some people it's so easy for them to care about other people, and then for other people it's the hardest thing in the world for them to do. So I've spent, a lot of time on this whole issue of empathy. But what people don't talk about enough, I think, in the worlds of policing and military is tactical empathy. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because people think it's soft. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But before we get in, I've got a couple video clips to show you. We're going to talk about this for about 15 minutes or so. But Melvin Russell and Melvin Jones, how would you guys define tactical empathy?
Now, why don't you start off? We talked about a little before, now jump in.
So, for me, empathy is putting yourself in the other person's space or their how they're feeling, understanding what makes them operate the way they do. And when you do that, you help uncover the blind spots and you can see what drives them to the actions that they may execute.
Right. And so when we think about compassion, you got to understand that that drives this. There's two tentacles come out of compassion. That's sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is when, oh, you feel sorry. Maybe you can identify a little bit for somebody. And that's kind of the end of it, right? But empathy is where it really pricks you so much so you try to figure out what can I do to help this individual or this situation out. Tactically, what can I do? And that could be a plethora of things, but when you have empathy for someone and you want to become tactical about it, especially in law enforcement, it means what are the steps that I can do personally, right? Within the parameter of not just my law enforcement responsibilities, but maybe my personal responsibilities. Maybe I have resources or access to something where I can help this individual. And we won't dive deep into that right now because it can go all over the place. But empathy means taking action. Sympathy just means feeling sorry. Empathy means taking action to help relieve, resolve, help that person feel empowered or pull them out of that situation. So that's the tactical piece, helping them
Okay.
out of it.
All right, so I'm gonna play a little video clip. It's a few minutes long. It's Melvin Russell from the film, and then we'll talk a little bit about this thing called tactical empathy from there. So let me share my screen. All right, here we go. Give me a thumbs up if it's playing well.
The former commissioner, Anthony Batts, he used me and another one of my friends, he's a friend, another lieutenant colonel, and to say he was the warrior, and basically at the end of the day, that I was the guardian, and how the warrior was the ones that like to go get the bad cop with guns. You know, that's what we do, and it's hard for us to do the warrior piece, the guardian piece, but we got to become more like Melvin, you know, that soft piece. And I took offense to it. And so I began to do our presentation, bring my team in, and about 2 minutes within the presentation, he gets up with one of his executive officers, and they walk out. On a presentation, he told me to get ready for him. I stopped my presentation. I said, let me tell y'all something. So this is the remaining, all the commanders, the 3 deputy commissioners. Listen, I take offense to this warrior guardian. Never one of y'all in here will ever do anything remotely close to what I've done in my career. None of y'all will ever arrest more people than I've ever arrested. By 1990, 92, I stopped counting at 5,000 arrests. None of y'all would get a shot at as much as me. None of y'all have contracts on your life as much as me. But I was animated. I couldn't help it. I was so hyper. The passion and compassion was just coming out, and I was angry, and it was coming out, and I was spewing. So don't you ever think that I ain't a warrior. I'm more warrior than anybody in this room. And just because I'm also a guardian and I'm balanced, don't you ever think you're looking at a soft dude. I'm both warrior and guardian. Now on with the presentation. And I went back to my presentation. And I wrapped up my presentation. And the guys couldn't believe all the stuff we were doing in community policing, trying to do, we really weren't allowed to do. Nobody was touting it, nobody was supporting it. And when I was finished, they stood to their feet. Standing ovation. Commissioner been gone. Community was for years saying, I don't see my community officers for weeks, for months, because they're constantly being detailed to a robbery detail, a foot detail here. They were almost used as a reserve in district units by those commanders. I need extra cops. The only way I know how to deal with situations in my district is to throw more cops at it. Oh, I know what I can do. I don't have a patrolman to push this car today, and I'm getting my butt chewed because I keep paying overtime to push this car, to answer calls for 8 hours. Let me grab a community officer. You go work a car for 8 hours. That's not what they're there for. They're there, in my philosophy, they're there to build a force multiplier for that district commander, an army of supporters. made of community residents, made of pastors and congregations, made of businesses, made of everything that makes up that district to build supporters. So you don't have to work as hard. We will teach them, meaning the community officers, teach the communities and the police officers how to teach those communities to become community policing communities themselves. In other words, like Mel Russell grew up, I didn't see police come when I was playing ball in the street when we got rough. Community took care of us. Loud music, I didn't see police come talking about turn your music down. Community took care of it. We're gonna take it back. We shouldn't be afraid of each other. We're neighbors, for God's sake. Why are we afraid of each other?
If you're a
So, wow. So, Melvin, I remember that day when we did that interview, man, and you were fired up about that, about the whole warrior versus guardian thing, and nobody was supporting community policing. People thought it was soft, right? So tell me, how does that trigger you right now? Like, what are you feeling right now when you think when you see that clip?
Yeah, it does. It does. It takes me back because, at that time that we were filming and we were talking about it, AJ was fresh, right? So I
Yeah.
had a commissioner who, only because of the mayor, had put me in that position. And unfortunately, because of the culture of policing today too often, and leadership is getting younger and younger, which means they're moving further and further away from traditional, that officer friendly, that community policing officer, and they're more dialed into that zero policing, even though nobody admits they're still doing that. So, I was like a dinosaur in the agency because I was still doing community policing, and I saw needs in communities that just wasn't going to be dealt with by arresting our way out. And we say we can't arrest our way out, but unfortunately, a lot of departments, they won't admit it, but that's what they believe, arresting their way out. So I was frustrated plus executive officers, and nobody wanted to really serve the community with resources that were really easy to supply, and thus making our jobs better or easier, but more importantly, enhancing the quality of life of the community. And that irked me to no end. It doesn't take much to get these juveniles turned around. It doesn't take much to stop recidivism. It doesn't take much to lower the shootings and the homicides. All we got to do is talk about preventive measures and invest in that as much as on the back end, if that makes sense.
So by showing somebody that you care, which I've seen you do a million times, you have truly, truly cared about the people that you serve. Showing them that you care is good policing.
It's excellent policing. It's excellent policing. But unfortunately, I'll just speak for my era. I retired in 2019, and I knew a lot of police departments. I was friends with a lot of people in a lot of police departments across the country. And unfortunately, people that thought like I did was an anomaly. I'm not saying I was the only one, but it was a rare breed that thought like I did, that, man, we could serve the community, take care of the community, help the community, and still do a fabulous job by ridding our communities of crime. Where other people were just saying, no, let's just continue to deploy. It was almost like, let's be more militant and occupy communities and take over and hammer away, rather than let's partner with these communities, listen to what they're saying, come alongside of them and resolve these issues. And I like to laugh because it makes you a better cop, and it keeps that empathy in place. When you do it the other way, you become dehumanized. And that's why you hear defunding all over the country. It's kind of died down a little bit, but that's why it was at its height, because cops were acting like they were born cops. You were never a human being, right? You're not a father, you're not a son, you're not an uncle, you're not a student, you were never a student. And so it's just, to me, it just boggled my mind. So
Wow. And so Melvin Jones, transitioning over from policing in a community to military operations, like, I can see where tactical empathy can keep a peace officer from doing the wrong thing and ruining his or her career, or casting a bad light on the whole department. I can see tactical empathy in the military sense being used so that people don't go over the top with violence, or know when to turn it off. Know when we need a ceasefire. right? Like we need a ceasefire in some parts of the world right now. So, what are your thoughts on that from a military perspective, Colonel?
Well, one of the things I like to go back to our motto of the Military Police Corps, that's assist, protect, and defend. And that's part of a community. And we like to not just use the military police, but use the whole of government, the whole of community approach, where we bring in people to help with, uh, say, social services, so that we don't have to use lethal lethal means or kinetic weapons. So one of the most powerful things is our ability to communicate with people, and that's what we focused on with our young military police officers and our soldiers out there pulling security, is communicate with people to help win hearts and minds and to de-escalate, because it's sometimes only one of us or a few of us, and we're outnumbered, and we need to have the community, be it at home or away, to be an asset to us, to provide us intelligence, to help protect us, but enable us to protect them. And that communication, building those bridges, goes a long, long way. And Melvin made me think about one of the things that I came up with when I was a police chief was a Guardian of the Quarter award, where I recognized people for their work. I had firefighters, I had police and security forces, and I recognized the people for doing positive things in the community. And we would do ride-alongs. We would do things like have the people come in and educate them on what we do, so they understood why we did certain things or took certain actions. And they saw us as humans, and we saw them as humans as well, and help build those bridges and forge those relationships. And before we had to escalate to arresting somebody, we looked at alternate means to take action to get them what they needed, and also to be a positive contributing member of the community.
Nice. So I'm going to play another clip. We've talked a little bit about external tactical empathy, right? How we perform in areas that might be hostile. But there's another element to it, which is internal tactical empathy, and that's peer support and getting the best out of your people, right? And that's something that we want to do throughout society. So let me play this clip, and then we're going to talk a few minutes about that, and then we're going to wrap up. All right, share screen. Bear with me 1 second. Almost there. Here we go.
Who's more trauma impacted than a police officer? And I tell this story. I still remember my first homicide, 16-year-old kid, brains blown out. I'm pulling a scene. Remember, I ain't never seen a dead body. This don't even look real to me. Brain matter, blood, don't look real. I'm starting to feel a certain kind of way. This used to be a living, probably a vibrant young boy. I look at my partner to the right. He looks fine. Partner to the left, he looks fine. I'm a rookie, right? Or just a few years in. If I'm gonna be a Baltimore City cop, then guess what? Mel Russell, you better get fined real quick. So I deal with it by myself. Look, I don't know how to deal with the night tremors. I'm dealing with this trauma poorly. I ain't talking to nobody. Remember, this pre-Jesus, so I ain't got a pastor to go to. I'm poorly dealing with it. And before I can digest this and move past this, if you ever move past it, and clearly I haven't because I'm still talking about it, I got to go to the next trauma event, another shooting. And so I recognize that early on, that we as police officers, we protect so much, we don't even take care of ourselves. We're the last people we serve. Self-care.
There's more to that clip, but I'm gonna stop right there because we only have a few minutes left, and we promised, this is evening time. We promised our wives that we would be back into their lives for dinner. Everybody's wives upset at me. I don't want my wife upset with me either. So we're going to spend the next 3 minutes, and then we're going to wrap up talking about this, because I think this is really, really important. And this is probably not going to be the last time we have this conversation. if you're watching this, we really want your input on this, because I think this is something that we got to go deep on. External tactical empathy and internal tactical empathy, both of those things have to be there in order for an organization and its people to be at their best and within integrity, right?
Yep. Yep. So listen, so I think it's vital that we as police officers, especially as you move into ranks, to not become so rigid that you're no longer accessible or personal, and you're more robotic, right? You are looking like that dehumanized, that cold person. I think it's so important to stay in touch with the human side of policing. Don't become so rigid, right? When I first became a commander, I recognized that a lot of my cops were having issues. And so immediately when I took over command, I put on many hats, and I told them in all three of my roll calls, I said, listen, I can be your major, I can be your pastor because I'm also a minister. I can be your big brother, but most of all, I can be your dad. I want to be your mentor, right? So don't look at me like the way I was raised up in policing, where you saw the major and you were terrified. Oh my God, it's a major, right? I need you to have a relationship with me because I want to have a relationship with you. And as leaders, that relationship can't just stop with that officer. Learn about them and their family, and all that has to become important. In doing that, you will create better officers. So in doing that, my officers started self-identifying items and issues that they would never talk about before. I'm an alcoholic, because that's a fireable offense, right? If we investigate that. But I said, no, we're going to take care of that. Do you want to resolve this? I'll put you in rehab. I'll take you off the books. This is between me and you, and I'll take care of you because I care about you more as a person than as a police officer, right? I had a homeless cop, right? Because he had been divorced and lost everything. Do I just say, well, that's not my issue? No. I called in resources, got him an apartment for free for a year so he can get back on his feet. And so we got to understand that there's internal things that are going on within our officers, and we've got to present ourselves in such a way that they say, I can exhale and I can go talk to my boss. I can talk to my partner, and they're not going to look down on me. I was very key, and I'll end with this. I was very key before this. We didn't have this in place. We finally got in the police department a wellness unit, because before that, if you told somebody you were having problems, they would send you to the shrink, and the shrink would try to find all kind of problems with you to get you out of the police department. But finally, we got a resource in the department called a wellness unit that understood police officers are getting more traumatized than the people who are experiencing traumatized in the streets. And so it's very important to have that internal piece to really make an officer who becomes a peace officer. And this is what I say eventually, I mean, really quick. You can't dispense peace as a peacemaker if you don't have personal peace. So as leaders, as partners, we got to check up on each other and make sure we have that internal peace and do whatever we can to make sure it's in place and it stays in a healthy place.
Wow. Thank you. Melvin Jones, what you got to close with, brother?
Say that was very powerful, and our job as leaders is to set the conditions for our teammates and our community to feel comfortable coming to us to help develop solutions together, because that's what being a peace officer is about, is helping to develop solutions for the community. And it's not every problem is a nail and the only solution is a hammer. It's about that empathy to help resolve things at the lowest level possible so that people can feel comfortable coming back to you and being an asset to the community. And I'll pass it back to you, brother.
Amen.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to wrap up with this. Members of the military, veterans, 22 suicides a day. Suicides in policing are higher than the normal population as well. Problems with alcohol and drugs and family issues and other things are prevalent in both of these areas. We care about you. If you're in the military or veteran or peace officer, the three of us here, we care about you. We love you. We want the best for you. And so share this video with your friends, talk about it, have conversations, put comments in there, and let us know if you want us to go deeper, because these are issues that are important. And by talking through them, maybe someone's life gets saved. By talking through them, maybe someone's career gets saved. By talking through them, maybe someone's marriage gets saved. Bottom line is we love you and we care about you and we want the best for you. That's what Love is the Answer is all about. Melvin Jones, Melvin Russell, thank you guys so much for this time and just for being there for me every day as brothers in this battle to bring more love into the world.
Hey,
Thanks
to
so
my
much,
two
bro.
brothers, to my two brothers, I love you to life, and all viewers who will look at this understand that we love you to life too, and we want you to have a life that's full of love. So God bless you, man. We appreciate you.
God bless you all, and thanks for all you do, and thanks for all you're gonna do. Be blessed and keep in mind, love is the answer.
Amen, brother.
Amen. Peace and aloha.